Welcome to Saturday's Warrior for this live edition. We're calling Saturday's Night Live, coming to you after the Pop-Tart Bowl. BYU, Georgia Tech ended up being what was a great game, great finish, fun all around. And to celebrate, I've even got my own Pop-Tart here. Haven't eaten these in years, but here we go. I was told the what is this? Cinnamon roll flavor. I think this was one that was recommended. Got it. This is untoasted. I usually like them toasted though. Pretty good. Tastes like a cinnamon roll. Not bad. Can't say I'm up there quite at Satake's level of love for Pop-Tarts, but solid. I've eaten way too much junk, as everyone has this time of year anyway. So let's talk about the game. Like I said, this is Saturday's Warrior. I'm Trevor. We come to you live after every game. The season's over now. We'll keep bringing coverage to you, live reactions and other content throughout the basketball season too, covering that team. So please, if you're a BYU fan, if you love Pop-Tarts, whatever, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and join us. Also, join us in the chat tonight. Want to hear all about your thoughts on the game. What exactly it was that we watched, because there were a lot of highs and lows, ups and downs in this game. So let me get box scores pulled up here so we can talk about that. But my reaction to this game, let's see. I would say, generally speaking, I was really impressed with the offense. I mean, and this was a game where the offense came out cooking. It looked like the defense was struggling a little bit. And we knew that Georgia Tech has a good offense. But we also know that they've given up a lot of points in the latter part of this season. So I was hoping that BYU would be able to do some damage on Georgia Tech and do a little bit more. My official prediction that I made was 31-21 BYU. Didn't quite get there, but kind of in that vicinity. But let's see here. And maybe I need to switch screen so I can pull this up. But if we look at this, I mean, Georgia Tech was allowing quite a few points and struggling here at the latter part of the season to some teams that probably they shouldn't have been, namely Boston College. And now everyone's got bad games like that show up. But I felt like BYU should win this game and that they should come out prepared for it. Even without LJ, even without Sione Moa, I felt like BYU was going to be able to do some things. Now, I was surprised. I did think that meant we'd see a lot more Bear running the ball. I was surprised not to see him run it more. But honestly, I'm glad that we didn't. One, I'm guessing it was because of his ankle. You want to see him get healthy. But then also because, it allowed him to throw it. Obviously, they saw something they felt like they liked, and they were being able to take advantage of it. And were able to do really what they wanted through the air. It was only really in that red zone where BYU really struggled. Then on defense, it's not that they weren't making some plays. I mean, they were getting there. They made a lot of almost great plays, and we're fortunate that even though they weren't really getting home, that they were able to put a lot of pressure on Haynes King. And it felt like when he started feeling that pressure is when he would make some errant throws. He also made some really clutch throws, namely there in that last drive at the end where they burned Evans. But let's see. So, I mean, looking at these scores, Boston College put up 34 on him. It took that was a close game, probably much closer than they would have liked. And Pitt is a good team, but I mean, they just lost to East Carolina. They dropped 42 on them. They on the other hand, had a very defensive game against Georgia. So kind of all over the place, but I liked BYU's chances coming into this game. It ended up being closer than I would have liked, obviously, and closer than I kind of expected. I felt like I didn't see this being a game where BYU is going to come back. I'm not surprised that it was competitive. I did expect it to be pretty competitive, but I didn't see BYU being down 11 in this game. And fortunately, because of the passing, they were able to get back into it. it's crazy because it feel like they were relatively one-dimensional. If you look at rushing, I mean, they had 100 yards. They had LJ Martin amount of yards between the entire team for the entire game. And so, and honestly, if anybody saw it, please let me know. If McKay Hillstead, I missed that play. I was over at someone else's house. There's a lot of people there, and we were talking, and so there's some distractions. I missed McKay Hillstead being in there, so that's wild to me that he made a showing. I wasn't sure if he replaced Bear or if they had both of them in for a certain kind of trick play that just didn't go anywhere. Kind of curious about that, but in terms of receiving yards, very impressive. But namely, Carson Ryan had himself a game. I mean, he was all over the place. What a way to go out and end his collegiate career, and really had a great showing there. Wish we could have had a little bit more of that this season. I don't put all of that on Carson Ryan. He certainly had plenty of big moments throughout the season. But then the other one was Parker Kingston. There was that drive where it felt like, okay, BYU really needs a score here, and we just stopped Georgia Tech, get the ball back, and you kind of feel momentum swinging. And I think they went to Parker Kingston 3 times. It was a bad pass, then a couple bad passes, right? And then finally on that third down, 3rd and long, and to Parker again for the first down. And then I think he took the next pass after that. Like, it was just, I don't know if that was all by design or if he was just the one that was getting open, but that was a really impressive showing from Parker Kingston again. Very, very impressed with what he's been able to do this season. I have to say, like, he was not one that I came in with high hopes on. I know he had speed. I know he does some nice things. Felt like his decision-making wasn't always there, but he's really proven me wrong for most of this season. And Chase, another very good showing for him here at the end. As I said, Mr. Reliable. Glad he was able to get one more touchdown, and just very impressive. So glad he came back one more year, and they were able to do some great things. I mean, BYU made it 12-2, 12 wins in a single season. Very, very impressive. Let's see, when was the last time? I can't remember. BYU did that. I'll have to look that up. I think it was the 90s since BYU's done that. Sorry, I was just looking at this earlier today. I should have had that ready to go. Anyway, and very good season. I felt like, this isn't the win that I was hoping for. It would have been great to have another win like the one over Colorado, this time against the ACC, this time going in and what they're calling the People's Championship game. It feels like it would have been a little bit more so had it been against Notre Dame. But, Georgia Tech was probably, for much of the season, the best team in the ACC. And, just for the way tiebreakers and things worked out, didn't even make it to the conference championship game. So they're a very good team, struggled a little bit near the end, but, they played Georgia really, really tough. We knew it was a good team. Obviously, they're facing turnover of coaching staff and losing players, whatever. Everybody is this time of year in bowl games. And so, that can't be an excuse. These are 2 good teams you want to see come out and give it all. And I think both of them gave a great game. BYU really struggled in the middle, though. Some errors that, like, it felt like, getting to the red zone twice. Wait, I guess it was 3 times and coming away with 10 points was a bit frustrating. And then you get the turnover. Well, the turnover on downs, which I think that was the right decision. Unfortunately, you don't get that. Now, if you have LJ Martin, that's a touchdown. Like, they just wouldn't be stopping LJ in a situation like that. It happened. The interception, that was painful. The most painful was obviously Cody Hagan dropping that return. I don't know if we saw Cody Hagan for the rest of the game. And then what's crazy is they put Carson Ryan in after that. And I don't know why Carson Ryan. Is it just because he's a senior? They're giving him his moment. Like, why not at least Parker Kingston? Not sure, but they obviously were not happy with Cody Hagan. That almost lost them the game because to that point, Georgia Tech had been moving the ball pretty well, but ultimately wasn't getting in the end zone, I guess, kind of like BYU. But that obviously swung the momentum. The defense was struggling a little bit. I mean, the whole second and third quarter, it felt like not the whole of them, but it felt like Georgia Tech was in control. And then BYU, partway through the third quarter, kind of started shifting that momentum. The defense woke up. I saw some tweets saying, this defense is playing like their head coach is about to announce that he's leaving right after the game. And I'll get to all that here pretty soon. But the let me see here. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up some things. I will get to 1 second here. The the defense struggled a bit, but definitely came up obviously when they needed to. What I love is the 3 and out. Like BYU went down and they scored. Then you get that 2-point conversion. But when that opened up too with Bear and he started running, I was like, bad ankle or not, like that is too much space, too wide of a gap for Bear not to get that. And it's crazy because they went back and reviewed that one, and they didn't even review the one that was it Chase Roberts when he was down just shy of the end zone. They didn't even review that one. I thought that was going to be enough. So to warrant at least a review on it, but unfortunately it didn't get that. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. I know a lot of people are going to complain about the officiating in this game. There were some calls I didn't agree with. Some of it was, players forcing them to make the calls. I think some were bad judgment calls. Some were makeup calls. I don't know. But like the face mask, they were going back and forth. I don't know if his fingers really grabbed the face mask. It looked like his hand did make contact with it. I don't know if that's within the rules or if you actually have to grab it. But it did move the face mask as his hand hit it. So in a bang play, I think that looks like a face mask, whether it's the letter of law or not. While it was frustrating, it wasn't, this wasn't what I'm going to complain about. Like had BYU lost the game, I wouldn't be upset by some of those. I think the worst one was the no call on the holding on Chase Roberts there in the end zone. That one was kind of egregious. They called some other holding, and the commentators were complaining about I can't remember, was it Trey or Evan Johnson? They said, the holding, and they said on that one play, like, his hand, it was there. Didn't look like he had impeded him at all. Like they were allowing a lot of contact in the game. I say, let these guys play unless you're like yanking or pulling or really slowing them down. They're both putting hands on each other. I say, let those go. Let's see. Got a few comments just come in here. So let's get to those. We got Angela saying such a weird game. It was a weird game. Like just the flow of it, like the energy, like I was really pumped coming into it. Felt like there's a lot of energy at first, and then it kind of got sucked out. And I was like, man, I want to see this team go out on a higher note. This was such a good year. You hate to see it end like this. You want to see it end on a high note, on a win, and really make a statement. Fortunately, it ended looking more like BYU football. And it's not, both teams, really every team at this time of year, you're seeing people sit out, and like LJ did the right thing. Whether he goes to the NFL, which I think he should, like if he's my friend, he's asking me for advice and saying, yeah, I don't even have the numbers in front of me, but knowing the numbers or not, it seems like that is the wise thing to do with the career, with the way things go for running backs nowadays. Like you need to go make your money, take your time, get in there, get into the NFL, and do your thing while you can, especially when you're injury prone. So I say do the surgery, get better as quickly as you can, whether it's for the draft or whether you're prepping for next season. But love LJ. Let's see. Jack Kelly, he's another one that I know he's been banged up this season, and he's another one that, has big NFL aspirations. So it was smart. It sucked not seeing him dressed out, and seeing him out on the field. There's some plays there where I think we certainly could have used him, but I don't fault either one of them. And Angela says, is it confirmed that Jay Hill is going to Michigan? Did all these distractions impact the defense in the first half? It definitely seems like it could have been a distraction for sure. I don't know if he is. Like, I think Whittingham really wants. I'm sure he's absolutely considering Jay Hill. I know they're close. They go back. Jay Hill's an excellent defensive coordinator. There would be no reason why they wouldn't at least consider it. My thing is you have a really good defensive coordinator at Michigan now, and these stabs have ties with all of the players that are there, with the recruiting in the area in the Midwest, and um, I think that you don't necessarily want to turn over your whole coaching staff, bring in a bunch of guys who are out of state with no ties with the players you have. You might start getting a lot of turnover. You want to see that continuity. So I'm not sure. I um, I really want to get Michigan fans' perspective. I've looked at some of their Twitter now. I kind of am a Michigan fan. I grew up in Michigan. I rooted for Michigan, but I don't really follow Michigan very closely. It's more of a casual, very casual fandom at this point, and it's been diminishing over the years. And so I'd be very curious to see what they feel about their existing coaching staff. But I think Whittingham has to look at all that. I don't think you necessarily go in and just clean house right away. I think it would be wise, if you think that they're going to be a good fit with you, that you keep as much of the existing coach staff, because this is good coaches. Like, they haven't ended up at Michigan on accident. So I don't think it is. Some people are convinced it's going. Last thing I heard is it is a real concern that he goes. That is the most kind of inside, and I haven't followed up on that since to see how that has elevated. I have heard that if Jay Hill goes, that Satuwala likely goes with him. And you think about it, if Glasgow comes back for another year, or I'm just trying to think of some of these other defensive guys. Like, they love Jay Hill. They would run through a wall for him. And especially if they have NFL aspirations, these guys, like it or not, they're going to have more transparency or more visibility at Michigan, playing on a bigger stage on, these primetime viewing. You're going to get all the pump up, all the eyeballs, all the scouts, everything that Michigan brings. And so you can certainly do it from BYU. There's no question. We've seen tons of guys, but being at Michigan could help that, and playing for Jay Hill, like it would be pretty detrimental in many ways. Now, that's not to say there aren't contingency plans and other guys that BYU could elevate that could do a lot of what he does. But anyway, that was a lot of random thoughts on it. I planned on doing a little bit more of a deeper dive, and maybe we will on it, but I don't know, is the short answer. I don't know if it's official yet. Or it's not official, but I don't know if it's like definitely happening. I think there's a lot of other factors other than just Whittingham and Jay Hill go way back, and Jay Hill's an awesome defensive coordinator. I think there's more there. All right, DB Cougar says, victory was toasted to perfection. No LJ and Kelly, no problem. Just a team that showed up, handled its business, and walked out with the win in the pantry. Proof this team deserved to be in the CFP. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It would have been great if you came out with another performance like they did against Cincinnati, where then you could really be like, look, guys, really? Obviously, if this had been against Notre Dame, then you get that win. Then that really starts giving you juice. The way this team played, I mean, granted, missing LJ, so you're a little bit more one-dimensional, missing one of our best defensive players. I don't know. Like, I wasn't super impressed with Notre Dame all season, but I don't know if the way BYU played for a lot of this game, if they're beating Notre Dame, but obviously – it's a completely different story, so it's impossible to say. But yeah, it's winning this game, I think, was essential. With the season you had, you did not want to end on a low note. Even though you're not really playing for anything, you're really playing for next year, where you end up in the rankings, and really second year in a row saying, hey, you've left us out, and given the committee and all the voters and everybody something to think about. And DB Cougar says, hey, love the show. Hey, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being on. I appreciate you always giving comments. That's why we do this, and that's what keeps the show going. And Angela says, oh my goodness, I love Satuwala. I would be so sad to see him go. Yeah, it would hurt. Losing Jay Hill would hurt. Losing a lot of our defensive players would really hurt, because I'm already a little bit concerned about next year. Just a lot of key guys that we know already are leaving, and it would be rough to see him go. So don't want to see it, but on the other hand, like, you look at the difference between BYU situation and in Utah. So BYU, we have Satake. They could have gone with Jay Hill, said, hey, you know what? He's our kind of coach in waiting, whatever. If Satake needs to go, let's let him go. Let's elevate Jay Hill, whatever. And maybe it would have gone really well. Utah went the other way, said, hey, Whittingham is kind of at the end of his career. We're ready to move on. He keeps saying he's going to retire. He's not, whatever. We've got the future in waiting right here. If we don't do something, he's going to leave. And we know that eventually Jay Hill is going to get head coaching job opportunities, whether it's with BYU and Satake leaves and it's with BYU, or he goes elsewhere. But Utah decided to move forward with a future now. Then Whittingham leaves, goes to Michigan, a blue blood program. And now Utah is all of a sudden having second thoughts. But I just think it's interesting because BYU invested in the existing head coach in the continuity, knowing that it might lead to losing some assistant coaches, even though they decided to invest more in these guys. Utah's approach was different. And now we see what could happen. I also think it's very interesting. You see the Big Ten, we know that, Big 12 gets no love, but then when anyone needs a coach, they all go to the Big 12 and they're taking guys. But the Big 12 came calling for Satake, and then Michigan came calling for Whittingham. And so it's just very interesting to see these guys push out west in their coaching searches to bring these guys in. And I have a lot of thoughts about Whittingham going to Michigan, but it's just, just the difference in approach between BYU deciding to invest in and stick with Satake and Utah deciding to go the other route and see how that's panned out. And we'll see in the long run. It's still too early. I have seen some things, and I don't know if this is true. Going back to Jay Hill, just wanted to comment on this, is that Jay Hill, I guess, has a clause. Well, one, they gave him a raise, but then he also has a clause where no lateral move clause or something where you have to a buyout. So if Michigan does want him, they'd have to pay extra to get it out of that clause or whatever. I don't know how that works. I don't know exactly how it's set up. Obviously, everybody on Twitter thinks that they're a lawyer. They all claim to have inside information. I don't know. That could be something I poke around and ask about. But right now, I think that that if that's all true, because I've seen it enough times, if it is true, that would, it's not that Michigan doesn't have the resources. If Whittingham really decides that's the way they want to go, they can make that happen. But I do think that that is another little roadblock. But whether it's this year, which I hope it's not, it'll be next year or the year after. Like, Jay Hill's not going to be around forever. Let's enjoy having him while we can and cherish him while we can. But eventually he'll be on his way out. And I say good for him. I want to see him go on and get those opportunities. Angela says, also, we must have Evan Johnson. He is the best physically and just a fun personality. He really is. And I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of these guys could decide to go to Michigan. I like to think that they're getting taken care of through NIL. And there's obviously Satake. That was part of his negotiation with BYU, was more for NIL. And I think they're really investing in the program and these players to keep them. And that's a part of it. It's not the only reason, but if these guys are invested in this culture, in this program where they've been, and they want to play with these guys and they want to get it done here and finish what they started, which feels to be rare these days, you want to keep those guys. But when there's a lot of money being thrown at you to go elsewhere, I don't necessarily blame them, especially for guys that, like, there's no guarantee they make it to the NFL. There's a chance for them to make a lot more money. They can make more money in one season than, some of these players by position than maybe I've ever made in my entire life. Maybe that's not quite true, but like, this is a lot of money that could definitely change their life and set them up in a really strong position as they go and their collegiate career. And so I don't blame any guys for going for that. So if BYU can at least stay competitive and they're happy here, then I think we can keep them, kind of like with Satake. He didn't necessarily get paid quite as much as Penn State was offering, although they did get close. They gave him some other things too, other incentives that were part of the negotiation. But again, I think it was the same thing with DeBonsa. like, yes, BYU had to kind of be in the ballpark with everybody else when it came to money, but it wasn't like they just came in and bid the most. Like there was more to it. It was the culture, it was the environment, it was the coaching staff, and I think the football team has that too. So if they can show that, even if we lose some coaching staff members to Michigan, I do think that a lot of guys will elect to stay, even if they are offered, positions at Michigan or invited to go there. So I don't know. There's a lot that has to be sussed out first before we. I think I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, diving into all that. But I'm just thinking about how this all plays out. And Evan Johnson, great one. Don't want to lose him. I think he's a key piece to our defense. Got burned tonight, didn't he? He got burned big. I couldn't believe it. And but then he came up at the end, made that big play. That they didn't need the interception. He could have batted that down. He was in position. He could have just stopped that play, fourth down, turnover anyway. But just getting that interception was just the cherry on top. And what a way to end. I feel bad for Haynes King. Good quarterback, had a great collegiate career. Don't know what his NFL prospects are, but to end like that is pretty lousy. I feel bad for him. He made that, threw that dime, and it was. That's shades of 4th and 18. That was shades of Zach Wilson to Micah Simon against Tennessee. It's just, great play. But then I don't know if he completed another pass after that play. No, I think they did. But then once they got to that, within the 20 there, I don't think they made another pass. Just they were getting pressure to him. He was forcing things. And anyway, Evan Johnson was what I was talking about, and what a way to end that game. So, sorry, I'm all over the place tonight. So keep me focused with questions or comments here in the comments, and I'll try and hone it in or rein it in. Jack Johnson, 99, says, heard something about A-Rod going to Utah. Could it happen? Does he take Bear? So, yes, all of that could be true. He could go. I don't know. I think he's got a good thing going. I'm guessing he's getting paid pretty competitively to be where he is. Now, obviously, they currently have Jason Beck. Does Scally want to get rid of Jason Beck and bring in his own guy? I imagine he was part of bringing Jason Beck in the first place. Now, Jason Beck could go to Michigan, in which case they'd have an opening. So I think there's just so many dominoes to fall. Having said that, could A-Rod take Bear with him? A-Rod was a big part of bringing Bear in, and so that does concern me if A-Rod leaves, is taking Bear. Because we all know that Ryder Lyons is going on a 1-year mission, and then it'd be nice to have another year maybe for him to settle in, or maybe he just starts as he's gets back from his mission and gets back into shape, and you start him. But it would be great to have Bear for at least 2 more years, and then have that transition over. Having said that, Utah has 2 quarterbacks right now. Now, I did hear some rumors that, some could be transferring out, whatever. Also, you don't know who goes to Michigan or what, or, they want some depth at quarterback too. So that could happen. But also some of these guys, they're in the program. They're not just there for A-Rod. They're there for Satake. They like the program. They like what they're a part of, and they're building something. So I like to think if Bear feels like this place is going to put him in the best position to win with or without A-Rod, and depending on who the other offensive coordinator is, it could be Fesi Satake, in which, that might be enough to keep him. I know he's a great recruiter by all accounts, and that he's been a big part of bringing these guys in too. That, you see something like that, that might be enough to keep him to stay, especially because there's no guarantee. I don't know, these other universities like Michigan, for example, has a true freshman quarterback of their own who started this year. So I don't know. Again, there's just so many dominoes to fall, but A-Rod could go. But from what I understand, that if A-Rod goes to BYU, like if he leaves BYU and goes to Utah, he's probably not going to find his way back to BYU again. So if he thinks, okay, this is a time, and then eventually I go back to BYU, but if BYU is somewhere where he wants to be, and I think his family's in Utah, I think he wants to be in Utah, so he could still do that, going up to Salt Lake, but he might not be able to find his way back to BYU. And if that's the case, then I don't know. Would he do it for a lateral move? I don't know if it makes sense. Like, they've got a really good thing going at BYU. So, and like I said, they all just got pay raises. So I don't know. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I'll continue to ask around, but try not to bug my few um, sources, too often. Like to, don't want to go to that well too many times. So I'll let you know when I hear anything. But I imagine stuff will start coming out soon as we get through bowl games and Whittingham, Michigan, and Utah. Are they both bowl games both being played in Orlando as well? So I don't know. I think this next week there's a lot of things to be sorted through, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm very interested in all of that and seeing, but would really love to get again some Michigan takes on the direction of that Michigan wants to go with their coaching staff, with their players, what they're looking for with Whittingham coming in. Actually, and I will just say, sorry, I'm trying to get. Actually, 1 second here. Trying to get potentially someone on to come talk about that right now. So if you give me 1 second here. I don't know, man. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But I'll see if someone comes on. But what I think about Whittingham going to Michigan, though, I gotta say, like, I have mixed feelings because I love rooting for Whittingham. I've always said that, like, it wasn't so much a knock on him. I do think he was a little bit petty, but I also think that that's that's kind of what the game is all about. Like that feels like it would be perfect fit for that rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State. His pettiness and his gruffness, like it feels like that fits the Big Ten MO. He kind of has that personality. He's gonna come in and bring hard-nosed defense. He's gonna bring that hard-nosed mentality and a lot of things that fit. Also, they've had enough scandals that you're bringing in somebody who, say what you will about Whittingham, you like him, you hate him, whatever. Very good coach and no nonsense guy, but also not going to have a lot of issues off the field. That's not something you're worried about, and that's something Michigan really has to take into account. So even if this is only a stopgap coach, you think if he can give us 5 years, great. That gives a chance to get the program in order, kind of going back in the right direction, and hopefully you have somebody else there and waiting to take over the program. Although I would not name a coach in waiting, and I wouldn't name his retirement right away because you saw the turmoil that caused at Michigan. But in concept, you're developing other coaches, you have things in place. So when he does retire, but I think he's a good fit for what they need. I just don't think bringing in wholesale Utah, BYU coaches all the way through and losing the continuity with what they had, which was still a team that in some ways overperformed this year. And a lot of good pieces. They got a lot of talent being Michigan, being a blue blood, recruiting at the level they do. And you want people that can continue to have ties with those players and into the region as you kind of come in and get your feet wet. I think back to Gary Anderson going from Utah State to Wisconsin and had a hard time. It's not always a smooth transition, especially when you go from, one region where your experience is one place and then going to a brand new place. Sometimes you can. Some coaches navigate it really well. Others have a hard time. You look at DeBoer at Alabama, struggled a little bit. Of course, anybody's going to struggle following Nick Saban. Still in the playoff, still a good team. I think that they're probably a little overrated. I don't expect them to make a deep run, or really go that far. But not my point being, it's hard. So just because Whittingham's a really good coach does not necessarily mean success right away. He's going to have to come in and clean some things up, and some people aren't going to want to stay and play with him. You're going to bring some of your own players, some of these other guys in. So there's going to be a lot of transition. But what I will say, back when I followed Michigan more closely, was watching Lloyd Carr leave and then watching Rich Rod come in. I was not excited for Rich Rod. That was not like the Michigan style football this spread offense. It was just different, but it was fine. I was like open minded. I was like, great. West Virginia was a fun team to watch. Let's see what he does. And he wanted, I mean, he has Ryan Mallett in RIP, starting at quarterback, and he's just a slow dude, and he, can throw. Like he's just more of a pocket passer, just not at all a Rich Rod type quarterback. But so he kept trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it wasn't working, and he kept forcing the issue, and eventually, ended up getting fired. They weren't having the success that they wanted. Now he was recruiting his own guys. You see, then Brady Hoke come in, and Brady Hoke had a lot of success at first. He was using Rich Rod's guys. Now Rich Rod played a different style of football than Brady Hoke wanted to do. He wanted to play more your traditional Michigan style football, and he had some good teams. They were a lot of fun. You had Shoelace there. You had Denard Robinson, and he had a lot of success. And he did the opposite. He ended up, kind of tapering off as, Rich Rod's guys left, and he brought in more of his own guys and wasn't able to keep the sustained success. But what he did is he looked at, hey, this isn't really my style, but we're going to work with the pieces that we have. And he did a great job kind of blending that and being a great segue into building what he wanted to. Now, he was never able to successfully build what he wanted to, but I really like that approach. That is a long way of saying that if Kyle Whittingham wants to come in and just completely start from scratch, I think it's going to be a long process. I think you look at what's there and you build off of that. And I think he's a good enough coach. I think there's enough similarities. I think there's some overlap there that he's going to be able to do that and keep having success. But, we'll see what he does with this coaching search. And maybe this is just all me trying to talk myself into he's not going to hire Jay Hill. He might take Jay Hill. Who knows? Would Jay Hill to go to Michigan, maybe there's more money, maybe there's not, but he sees Michigan as more visibility, take a lesser role. So then he's not taking a DC position. He's taking some other, coaching position at Michigan to go there in hopes to, maybe find that as a stepping stone or, work his way into other top-notch programs. Maybe that's a possibility. I have no idea. I can't pretend to say. I have seen that perhaps Sitake's coaching saga with Penn State has left maybe a little bit of hard feelings between the two. I don't know really more than that, just that perhaps Jay Hill, he had already started working on filling out coaching staff positions for BYU, and then Sitake stays. And granted, he did get him a raise, but it's like, hey, you have this job. Just kidding, you don't. And now you're back at the job you were at. I don't know how all those things were handled internally or, between those guys, but that maybe caused a rift, or maybe saying, hey, I just need a change of pace. I also think that, he loves being in Utah. That's where his family's been. But, I have to think if he wants to be head coach at some point, those opportunities are going to come outside of the state for him, especially with Sitake looking like he's lined up for probably as long as he wants to be there now. And then Morgan Scalley, at least for the next several years. So, they'll at least give him time to see if he pans out or not. So I feel like head coaching opportunities are going to come for Jay Hill sooner than that, and they're most likely going to be out of state. So maybe that's not a big concern for him. I don't know, but it'll be really interesting to see how all this plays out. For now, let's enjoy the bowl game and the season BYU had. Again, 12 wins. Didn't always look super impressive, but man, BYU just knew how to pull these wins out and just very clutch. And they just really settled in the defense when they had to. It was as frustrating as they were for much of the game. When they had to, they came in and they were clutch and they were shutting them down. And that offense, they just moved all night. Guys stepping up, making big play after big play. I was just really impressed with that. And let's see. See, while I'm talking, oh no, this was 8 hours ago. It's saying Jay Hill has reportedly agreed to a deal. Yeah, I've seen those things. It may be the case. I don't know. I'd be surprised if it was set like that already, but perhaps. Man, Whittingham saying go blue. That's wild. I really am excited to see his pettiness towards Ohio State. I hate Ohio State. I don't like Utah, mostly because obnoxious fans on Twitter, but my dad's a Ute. Like I don't flat out hate Utah. the way I mean, I kind of do. I don't, but I really despise Ohio State, and I'm excited to see what Witt brings to that rivalry, and just hopefully he can get some wins over Ohio State. But it'll be really weird rooting for Whittingham. But yeah, he's always been the kind of guy that, again, you kind of hate him if you're playing against him, but you love him if he's on your side. And I think guys love him. Utah certainly loved him, so I think Michigan will too. But let's see here. I got some more comments here I've been letting pass by me. Just one here. We got Spencer. He was at the game today. Says, is a compliment that the Big Ten keeps trying to poach Big 12 coaches. If not, what does the Big 12 need to do? Pay more? Just keep trying to build the conference? I talked about this a little bit already, Spencer. That is a great question. Actually, while I'm answering your question, I want you to tell me about the game, the environment, and it sounded like BYU fans got pretty loud. Was it pretty evenly split? What you thought about that there? But I mean, everyone says Big 12 sucks. Nobody likes the Big 12, but everybody wants our coaches, and I think Big 12 has had some really good coaches as of late, and a lot of coaches that have had continuity in really building these programs, and even those that you can criticize, I think have done some good things, and certainly a lot of very respectable coaches. Like I look across the board, I'm like, that was a pretty solid group overall. Dillingham, yeah, people are going after him. I feel like he's kind of the flash in the pan, the young guy. I don't know. I mean, perhaps he has. I don't know if he just necessarily goes. I'm afraid for him. Well, one, he's in a good spot, but if he goes somewhere else, I wonder if it's too much too soon or too much out of his element, in a new area, and that it doesn't necessarily translate. Maybe it would, but Matt Campbell, it's so funny that his name was like the first one mentioned on every coaching search, and then finally it's not the first one mentioned with Penn State, but yet that's the one that ends up getting him. That one feels like a more natural fit. I think that'll work out well for Matt Campbell. At least, I hope so. But yeah, in terms of the conference, I mean, some of these schools that are I mean, they're not going for just any old program. And unfortunately, I think it has more to do. And maybe some of it is resources. Like not every school has Texas Tech resources. Not every school has BYU's resources. But so some of it could be that. But I think a lot of it is just viewed as a lot of these are more like blue blood programs. I mean, we know that the Big 12 doesn't have any more blue blood programs. They all consolidated to the Big 10 and the SEC. And so when those types of programs come calling, it's very hard to turn them down. And I wouldn't say Penn State's quite blue blood. They're kind of like that next tier just under blue blood, but they're right there. It's really hard to turn them down. It was hard for Satake, a guy who wants to be at BYU, want to be here forever. I don't think it was just a negotiating tactic. So I think it's really hard to turn that down, especially when it is. In his case, it was lots of money. And I don't know. How do you say no to that? Like that is setting up your kids, their kids, and like just generations to that type of wealth over that time. So to get to your point, though, it's a compliment. Like Big 12 has good coaches, and how do we keep them? I think the programs need to have the resources to keep them, but I think it's putting them in position to succeed, giving them the NIL resources, allowing them to go out and compete and be in a position where they can make it to the playoff, where they can play at the highest level. Because if you can't do that and somebody else is throwing you more money and you're getting up to like these upper echelon jobs of college football, I could see this being very hard to turn down, even if you are at your dream job, like a Satake, like a Kenny Dillingham. So I mean, Matt Campbell, by all accounts, he was really happy there. He'd been there for a long time, but at some point, you need a change, or you need a way to challenge yourself more. So I don't know. It's a good question, but it is very funny that, Big 12's no good, but, we want all their coaches. We think they can do some good things, and don't think that's I just think with you, we should take it as a compliment, but it's also kind of a slap in the face that they don't take us more seriously. At the game says felt about 50-50, never been to a bowl game. Actually, I've been to a bowl game. My first BYU game. It was the Motor City Bowl in 99 or 2000. I think it was 2000. I don't know. Yeah, they got creamed by Marshall. Not pretty. Never been to a bowl game. Is 50% capacity usual? It did get loud though by the end. Loved it. Yeah, I thought. I mean, I heard moments when Georgia Tech was getting really loud. They also had a couple false starts on that drive, which was a really key drive for them and a key drive for our defense and getting that stop and getting the ball back. But near the end, it definitely the momentum had shifted, and BYU fans sounded a lot louder, especially there near the very end. But I thought Tech sounded pretty loud. I mean, Orlando's obviously a lot closer to Atlanta, and obviously you're going to have a lot more Georgia Tech fans naturally in that area. But BYU fans show out. So glad you got to make it. It's a fun bowl game to go to. Can't say it didn't cross my mind to try to make it, but considering I've been to a couple things this season, did not make it happen. I'm saving up for next year when we make it to the playoff. Now, Wise Gamora joins us. Hey, welcome. Hey, also, I heard you mentioned on you're putting some comments in there on the Church Ball podcast. So glad you're supporting them, friends of the show, but glad you're coming back and joining us in the chat too. But Wise Gamora says, all the coaching carousel nonsense made me not even want to watch this game. I checked the score after. I am less of a fan now. Which stuff? Are you talking about the Satake and Penn State? Are you talking about Jay Hill and all this Whittingham stuff, or maybe both combined? Kind of curious about that. I mean, that's just the nature. I just hate that it can go on while bowl games are going. They need to set a period where it's allowed. Now, stuff is going to go on behind the scenes, whatever. But the NCAA won't do anything because they've lost any teeth. But even if they did set the rule, I can't see them being able to enforce this at all. But there needs to be something seriously changed about that, because this messes up a lot of stuff, and it messes up things for the players. It's just a big distraction. And so I'm with you there. I'm not less of a fan. I did watch the game, but I feel your frustration with it. But it says, and players faking surgeries to skip bowl game, just say you're skipping to avoid injury for draft purposes. Who is faking surgeries? I think in terms of LJ Martin, and he looked all bandaged up from when he was first injured. I heard he was going to postpone surgery until after the season. And so I don't know if he was faking a surgery, or maybe it was somebody else. Maybe I missed something. I think you're privy to or heard some things that I haven't. So I'd be very interested to see what exactly you're referring to. But in terms of LJ, I don't fault him for sitting out the bowl game. But yeah, I mean, you'd like someone just to admit it, say it instead of faking surgery. But I don't know if that's who you're referring to. I don't think he was faking. He should get help, because either way, whether he stays at BYU for next season or goes to the NFL, he wants that surgery. You want to get back as soon as possible. Talk to some people with again, I don't know if you're talking about LJ, but just talk to some people with what I had heard about his shoulder blade and what was going wrong, just saying it was just kind of messy. And anyway, that it's something that, in terms of surgery and stuff, definitely want to get things fixed, and you want to give him as much time as possible to heal up. So anyway, saying sorry to Wise Gamora, saying sorry to be negative, but that's how I perceive it. No, that's fine. I was just curious, a little bit more elaboration there. And then we've got BYU FTB says there's only 8 and there will always be 8 blue blood programs. In football, let me see. Who would I name as blue blood programs off the top of my head? I would say Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, Texas, Alabama, Florida. Would you say Georgia in there? Are those the 8? I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. Then you get other programs like your Penn States and your Oregons that I don't think are at that level. Even Georgia, to me, I feel like is borderline. Georgia's a big brand. I don't think they're at the level of like a Notre Dame and USC. Texas even. So I don't know. Be curious to hear who you say are the 8 blue bloods. But yeah, you have to do a lot to work your way in. Like Clemson is like a modern blue blood, but they're not really. And now you see that they're falling off. They're going to go back to being just Clemson. Like it'll take a while for that brand to um, really dissipate completely. But yeah, they're not a real blue blood. They were just a dynasty for I don't even know if you could call it that, but definitely a powerhouse for a period of time when they were very very good team, elite team, um, and played and acted like a blue blood for that period of time. But I wouldn't say they're a blue blood program. Anyway, let me know what you guys all think on who the blue bloods of college football are. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I saw I had it on mute and I was talking, but I noticed on the screen. I think this was during halftime of the game. They had a graphic come up and they were showing highlights from the Penn State Clemson game, and it was the opening graphic was billed as this was a preseason 2-4 matchup in this bowl game. And I was like, wow, that is a new one. I mean, this is a bowl game between two unranked teams that had very high aspirations to start the season that, you know, really underperformed. One of them fired their coach, like two disasters of programs trending the wrong direction. And they want to show highlights between them. And they say, yeah, these are two preseason 2-4. I mean, this is just complete bias, just garbage. Now, I didn't hear what they were saying. Maybe they pointed some of that out, but I saw that up on the screen. That is just a joke to me. More ESPN garbage on these graphics. The way they build these programs. Let's see. The blue bloods are USC, Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama. Oh, Oklahoma. Oh, Nebraska. Okay, so I said Florida. You didn't. Yeah, so you didn't even have only SEC team was Alabama. So yeah, I was kind of iffy on Georgia. I couldn't think of who else. Oklahoma, I completely agree. Nebraska definitely was a blue blood. Absolutely. Like all growing up, that was like a big name program. Their brand has really deteriorated though. So even though like a USC hasn't had the recent success, like it hasn't been as bad for them as it has for Nebraska. Like that brand is still there, even though that's kind of deteriorating a little bit. Nebraska, I mean, definitely they're kind of the opposite where I feel like now they're on that tier with like a Penn State, whereas Penn State is like just enough success to be kind of talked about just after the blue bloods, whereas Nebraska like was a blue blood, but it's been so bad. So they're kind of now like meeting at the same place because Penn State's trending up and Nebraska's trending down. But yeah, that's a solid list. I wouldn't really say that's wrong on any level. I mean, most of those were programs I said. So yeah, I like that list. I just think Nebraska's kind of, I mean, it's almost impossible to lose blue blood status. It's kind of by definition, but I think Nebraska's doing their darndest. So I don't know if they are really viewed that way anymore. Let's see. John Daughter says when BYU was stopped on their first drive of the game on the 1 yard line, it changed the dynamic of the game. If they would have scored that drive, it easily could have finished 31-21. Hey, and that was my score prediction for this game. Yeah, although, I mean, if you think about it, that set up the really, long field for Georgia State or Georgia Tech, who then ended up punting on that next drive. BYU gets it. So kind of shorter field. They go down and they get that second touchdown. Obviously, the momentum's not quite there, but I still think BYU's offense was playing with a lot of confidence because it's like, hey, we made it all the way down to here. Okay, we didn't punch it in. We didn't have our star running back. Okay, we messed up, but let's go back and do it again. Defense did. They let Georgia Tech go a little farther than I wanted. You have them in their end zone. You would have liked to stop there, but get the ball back, go and score. So I still felt like they were playing with swag, still playing with a lot of momentum. But it was just, I think it was after that third one where you come back again and then you have to settle for a field goal. And then the defense just kind of wasn't playing. I don't know. It just seemed like they didn't have all the energy. Saw a lot of, again, I don't know what these guys are coached to do, but it looked to me like a lot of bad angles where they kind of bit too hard and couldn't get home and allowing people to roll out to the outside. and get away. Having said all that, you're right. It did shift things. I thought it was like after settling for that field goal, and you're thinking, man, we've been into the red zone. We've been this close 3 times, and we're coming away with 10 points, leaving quite a bit, leaving 11 points on the, off the board. Then that to me was where I started getting a little bit frustrated. But at that point, I still felt like, okay, BYU's done this a lot. Now we just need to actually like make it happen. What really hurt was then the next time you make it down, and then there's that interception, and that just really hurt. So 4 drives into the red zone, and and close. You weren't just like at the 20, like you were knocking on the door, and to come away with just 10 points was really really hard. But they figured it out. Angela says faking surgery would be a bad choice to be NFL eligible. Yeah, I think they look at surgeries, I mean, depending on what they are and stuff, and then that makes them a little bit leery. Like, are you going to be healthy or not? And so I don't know. I don't know what Wise Gamora is referring to. Be interested to hear a little bit more about that and who he says was faking injuries. But yeah, I think that's a bad look. Hopefully nobody's doing that, but who knows? At this point, this sport has a lot of problems. They need to get things in order. And actually, I've been working on a video coming out soon talking about ways that I would like them to see fix the playoff. Now, having said that, most of my ideas are very unrealistic and are never going to happen anyway. But I'm going to post that here probably this next week anyway, as we get into the playoff and like some conversation on that. But anyway, yeah, great game. What a way for BYU to finish. And it wasn't like the beatdown we would have loved to have seen like we saw against Colorado last year, but we went up against arguably a better team than Colorado was last year, and got to go up against someone from another conference and let our guys go out and do their thing one more time. And, it's been a while since, we've seen BYU get beat down. We've seen BYU have some really strong performances here near the end of the season that we forgot that there was a stretch there where BYU was playing from behind a lot or winning these close games, that this team just knows how to win those close games. So don't know why I got nervous other than the defense just seemed kind of flat and the offense couldn't seem to score in the red zone, but I shouldn't have doubted. But yeah, once BYU got that score again in the third quarter, and was it the third, or maybe it was at the beginning of the fourth quarter, but there late in the second half started getting the momentum back, and the defense got that stop. I was like, I really felt it. And I did get nervous on that last drive with Georgia Tech. I won't lie, I was nervous. BYU might choke it up, but they held strong, and what a way to, we had some almost chances at turnovers. We did get another turnover, but what a moment. I love to see it for our guys, and that was really the kind of the embodiment of this defense of what we've seen for most of the season. So I'd love to see the game end that way, especially after we saw our offense play the way it did, let a lot of guys ball out and show what they got. So fun win. Got our hope everyone's eating their Pop-Tarts. It was fun to be part of that bowl game. Saw it the last couple years, and they do a great job of branding for it and just have a lot of fun and own it and make it a desirable bowl game to be in. BYU got to be in it. Didn't get to play Notre Dame, played Georgia Tech, was a great game. BYU got to 12 wins, a lot of fun. Love being in it. Next year, I do not want to see us in this bowl game. I would like to see us in the playoff. We'll see. But anyway, thank you. Oh, I got a couple more comments, or one more comment here. Let me get to. We got JJYX6JY saying BYU would have gotten BTA. Trying to not always quick on these acronyms in the playoffs. Big 12 should be lucky for getting only one bid. Okay. Lucky should be lucky for only getting one bid. Texas Tech is number 4 in the country, so they weren't even close to missing out, unlike the ACC, who did not get an automatic bid. BYU had a stronger resume than several teams right in front of them. I'd argue, Notre Dame, Miami, they were right there with Alabama as well in terms of when you look at most of the metrics. So I think BYU should have gotten in. They should have gotten snubbed. I've talked to a guy that, not that this is definitive, but he does not like BYU. And he says, hey, look, you know how I hate BYU. And if anyone asks you about this, I'll deny it. But they totally got snubbed. Not fair. And I agree. BYU should have gotten in. I'm not saying BYU is a championship team. I think there's only a handful of teams in the playoff that really have a shot at winning it all. But I do think BYU is a playoff caliber team, and a team, not only that, it's a team that earned it through the season and what they did in the season and they accomplished. So even if they don't pass the eye test to you, that's why we play the games, and BYU played the games and they accomplished what they set out to, and they had the metrics there to prove it. It just wasn't in the AP poll. So so a lot of comments. The Big 12 schedule is a joke. Overachieved, whatever. Whatever. I don't know. You could say BYU overachieved. They kept winning. They kept doing it. They did it again tonight. Like, people say BYU doesn't belong. Like, look at the metrics. They're all there. This is the strength of record. The SEC begged to have the strength of record, said it had to be included, had to be taken into account. BYU's was number 6. If it's so important, like, let's give BYU credit for it. And then BYU had the better record than Miami, better record, but better metrics than Miami. And Miami got it, and Miami won a game. So tell me, like, BYU can do it. I don't think BYU would have gone in and won the national championship, but I think BYU go in and at least be in a competitive game in the first round. Absolutely a playoff caliber team. So he says none of the Big 12 belongs. I mean, it's just not true. You can say that, but again, that's why you play the games. And I don't know why you want to see a bunch of underperforming. I don't know who your fan base is. If it's ACC, I mean, the ACC was weak, and they proved that this year that they just didn't have it. SEC, the down year so far, has not looked super impressive, and now their best teams haven't played their bowl games yet, but have not looked super impressive in this postseason. Big Ten is top heavy, then pretty weak underneath. So I don't know what you're saying. Big 12 doesn't belong. Like, I'd rather see a bunch of teams from different conferences bring their best teams forward and let them actually play it out instead of trying to do this eyeball test and saying some teams belong and some teams don't. If you pass all the tests, if you look good in all the metrics, bring the teams together, let them play. And we're going to be able to do that. Texas Tech is going to play Oregon. They're going to have a chance to back it up. Well, BYU is proud, but BYU did get hosed regardless of it. And now maybe they get blown out in one game, and that doesn't mean that they didn't belong. They belong because they earned it. They earned that spot to get there. And to talk about BYU's record and the strength of schedule, I mean, strength of record, again, it's number 6. You look at the teams BYU beat and BYU played and who they lost to. It was Texas Tech twice. Texas Tech is a very good team, and I think people are going to see that in this postseason. So we'll see. Anyway, appreciate you. I appreciate you say you're subscribing. Hope your channel grows. Appreciate that. All right. Oh, you're a Duck fan? Aye. Okay. Well, we'll see. Will be very interesting. I got nothing against the Ducks other than I've usually rooted against them, but usually that's just because I root against good teams that aren't my team, obviously. So nothing personal there. But yeah, we'll see. Again, I think the Big Ten is pretty top heavy, and then they get pretty weak under that. And so it's hard to stand up your best teams and say, hey, they're definitively the best when the rest of, most of the conference is pretty shaky. So that's not to say I don't think the Big Ten doesn't have good teams at the top, because I think they do. But Big 12, I think Big 12 is solid teams throughout. No blue bloods, but that again does not mean we don't have some quality teams, and be very interesting. My biggest gripe about Oregon right now is seeing fans complain about Texas Tech for being for buying their team. It's like, one, this is the NIL era. Everybody's buying teams if they can. 2, Oregon has Nike money. Like, Oregon absolutely doing this. Like that was a big discrepancy earlier, or a big kerfluffle earlier in the season. Oregon and Oklahoma State complaining about not having the NIL, whatever. And Oregon has the money, they have the resources. It's within the rules. Like they should go do it. Now the trick is spending a lot of money, bringing in the right guys, having the right coaching staff, and being able to build that culture. Not everybody can do that. A lot of people can pay for teams, and I'm not saying Oregon doesn't have that. I don't follow Oregon close enough to say that. Clearly, they've had a very strong season, so I'm not suggesting they don't. I'm just saying not every team can do that. Even if you have the resources, you still have to put it all together, and I think that's the hard part. I'll be here win or lose. Don't fault Tech for that. Yeah, and I wasn't saying you did necessarily, but that's been one of the big things I've seen on Twitter. That's the one thing. Like you can talk a lot of trash, whatever. It's been fun. Weird Utah fans getting, backing Oregon because they hated Oregon when you're in the same conference, but they're so in love with the Pac-12 that rooting for Oregon instead of Texas Tech, which if they win, they get more money. That money goes to the conference, gets divided amongst the teams. Like that would help Utah, but there's still a lot of fans rooting for Oregon. So Utah fans and BYU rooting for Texas Tech. It's in our interest. If Texas Tech goes far and does really well, and let's say they win a couple good games, that makes BYU's losses look not so bad. Would ultimately help set up for next season. In turn, that would help Utah as well. So not really sure the mindset there with some fans, but I'm actually really excited for the Oregon-Texas Tech game. I think that's the best playoff game, at least on paper. That's the one that I'm most excited for. Should be the closest, should be the most exciting, probably most evenly matched, and a lot of talk going on online so far. So should be a really good one. The other games, I think the other three semifinal games, I know last year we saw all the teams that sat for a week, they all lost. I don't know if I see that this time. And everyone, I think 4 is too few games to see a trend. I don't think we see that this year. I think the top, I think there's actually a ton of playoff worthy teams and several who did not get in, including Notre Dame, including BYU, including some of these others. I even think Utah is good enough to be up in the playoff. Having said that, there's only so many slots. You have to draw the line somewhere, but there's only so many teams that can actually win the championship. And I think a few of those are these upper seeds, and I don't see them losing. Tech and Oregon should be a good one though. Tech needs to fix TCU's mess from Georgia a couple years ago. You know what? But TCU handled Michigan, who then went on to go win the national championship. I can't remember if it was the next year or the year after. Oh, it's all running again. It's happening in my old age. But, TCU blew out. They didn't blow out. TCU beat Michigan and made Michigan look really bad. And then they went on. Yeah, they got handled. But you know what? We've seen other blowouts. They're in these playoffs. When it was a 4-team playoff, we saw other top 4 teams playing, and we'd see blowouts. And so, TCU gets a lot of slack for that because they were come from the Big 12 because they weren't one of these big name brands. But I don't think that's completely fair. We've seen Oregon make it to these big bowl games and underperform. We've seen a lot of teams go in, and I don't think that's always necessarily indicative that, this isn't a good team. It's just it comes out and it's one game, and sometimes some teams are able to prepare better for them. Like Nick Saban, whenever he's got 2 weeks to prepare for a game, like that would make me really nervous going up against a team like that. And some teams are just better suited for that. So I don't think that automatically makes the other team who loses means they weren't worthy to be there. It just means they got shellacked and the other team came out and played a lot better. It's definitely not fair. That's the perception, though. It is 100% the perception. I agree with you on that. It is the perception. It's stupid. As we were talking before, talk about these blue bloods and these semi-blue bloods, you get the benefit of the doubt, which is why I want to play the game, which is why I don't want a rematch. Like you get 5 SEC teams in a 12-team playoff. You're getting teams complaining about not getting in the playoff from the SEC when they couldn't even make the top quartile from their own conference. And now they're saying, but I belong in this play. You know what? We saw Alabama, Oklahoma play once. Now we got to see them play again, but why is that exciting for anyone? What else does that tell us? Like, let them play in the regular season. Now let's bring in different teams from around the country, different regions, different styles of play, different everything, and bring them together and let them play it out on the field. And that's what I think is exciting. It was fun when Oregon versus Penn State was, a bowl game, was a playoff game, was, something like that. Not an in-conference game where, whatever. I mean, it was a good game, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I like seeing that different regionality come together in the playoff, where you're all everyone's sending the best of their best to play each other, and not this like beauty contest of just kind of picking the same teams. Tech has a chance to fix that. You're talking about the TCU perception, the Big 12 perception. Yeah, Tech is definitely the Big 12's best chance. I would say even better position than some of these Oklahoma teams in the past and everything. Like, Tech can really come through and change that. But here's the thing: even if Tech, let's say, even though Tech wins the national championship, and I'm not saying I think they will. I'm not saying they will. I think they have a chance. It's a tall task, but I think if their offense were as good as their defense, they definitely, I think, would be in this thing to win a championship. But I think that. Sorry, I had too many tangents there on that thought. But yeah, Tech, I think, would still be, the accusation of, oh, they just bought their team, this or that, it's just a bunch of money, bunch of mercenaries, whatever. I don't think everybody understands. Like, BYU's first season in the Big 12, granted, it was their first season in the Big 12. That's a big jump up, going from independent, playing as many P5, at the time, schools as they could, to being in the Big 12 conference was a big jump. But a lot of it too was they built a lot of that team through the transfer portal, and the team took a step back, took time for them to gel. And I think that's why the next year we surprised a lot of people, going 10-2 in the regular season, was that a lot of those guys came back. So that first year, it was tough to get everyone to gel, build that team. You gave them another year and they came together. And Texas Tech really has done this in record time, I think, at the level that they're playing. And so I give them a lot of credit for what they're doing. Seriously, wish it was a night game. Yeah, night game. Night games are a lot of fun, and that would be it. It's going to be in Lubbock, right? Be nuts. So regardless, should be a good game. New Year's Six game. I mean, I'm still calling that a playoff game, but you know what I'm saying. Those New Year's bowl games are some of the best. Who do I have winning it all? Oh, I don't know. I mean, it really seems like Indiana and Ohio State are probably at a level above everyone else this year. But again, it's hard to say. Would really love to see them play, some of these other teams, and then this first round we'll see how they look. But right now it seems like we'll be one of them. I'll never pick Ohio State. I'd love to see Indiana Texas Tech championship. I think that would be a lot of fun. Texas Tech coming from another conference, outside of the Big Ten, SEC, plus it's Big 12, right? So for selfish reasons, but love to see that. And then also Indiana, a team that has been just historically terrible at football, and just have this quick turnaround and this rise to success. Just, it's been incredible. So if it had to be a team from the Big Ten win at all, and it's not Michigan, then it'd be really cool to see a team like that even though they're part of one of these, like, these big conferences that are, I think kind of destroying the sport on a level, it's still kind of traditionally one of the little guys, and one of the guys that's not a powerhouse. So I think that would be cool. Not Orange Bowl. Oh, you're right. It's the second round. I don't know why I was thinking that. It's late and I've been talking on here too long. So yeah, that is the. Let me pull up. What is the? That should be an interesting one. Because Texas Tech, being the 4 seed, gets kind of the last pick at. I don't know if they selected or assigned, but it's kind of gets what's the last of the 4 bowl games assigned to them, and so ended up with the Orange Bowl, which was not a natural fit at all. for them, but for really either fan base. So it should be interesting. I'm sure both fan bases will turn out though for them. So should be a good one. Anyway, well, I appreciate you joining in the conversation and everyone who's hopped on. I'm gonna go. Thoughts have been all over the place tonight. I came on talking about Pop-Tarts, eating Pop-Tarts, and been all over the place. So appreciate you hopping on. We will be back Monday. Got a few things coming up, especially as we start getting towards the playoffs and we wrap up this season, and obviously shifting our focus all the way to basketball. So appreciate everyone hopping on. Please, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and appreciate everyone for being part of it and part of the conversation. It's why we do this. So we'll see you all next time. Go Cougs.